Ooh, no need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom aleichem to each and every one of you. So glad to have you with us. Welcome to the Proceeding Word. We are here on this day to bring Yahweh our Elohim glory, honor, and praise. We do have something to share with you we think will be extremely important to you. We want you to gravitate to it as we look towards our heaven, our God, Elohim, who is in heaven. That's what we say. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So we want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the broadcast. Please check my platform, please. We want to make sure that everyone that is here is enjoying themselves and being able to put themselves in a capacity in which they can do and be a better believer in he who hung on the cross. Well, again, this is the Proceeding Word. Yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones Sr. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, we are a bit behind the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we are here. We want everyone to know that we love you. We're glad to have you. Look forward to being and seeing more of you. And we want to make sure you get a chance to invite as many people as you can, and put yourselves in a position to find what Elohim has for you and me in this season and in this day. And be careful, Jesus is not the reason for the season. I said that. I know I shouldn't have said it. It's probably not a good thing to say, but hey, we did it anyway, right? All right. So I want y'all to catch that, know that, keep your heads, your hearts where they need to be, and work and operate in the capacity which Yahweh has given unto us. Let's get started with the word of prayer, shall we? Father, we want to thank you for the day, the time, the place, and space. We ask you to be with us, in us, through us, and toward us for your namesake and for your praise. You alone are holy. You alone are righteous. You alone are our Elohim, and we exalt your name because of who you are, and we extol you because of why you are. And we're asking you today to be with us, in us, through us, and toward us for your namesake and for your praise. No man can live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of you, Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Help us to clamor, help us to embrace, help us to ingest, digest the word of you for life, that it may literally come forth from us in a positive, fruitful, and productive way for society to know the ways of you and your kingdom in the earthen realm by us as ambassadors. We love you and we bless you. And sometimes we mess up with you, but we're asking you today to keep us in a position to know you, understand you, and embrace you like never, ever before. In the precious and the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we all say it and we all pray it. Amen. All right. Well, many of you are here. Y'all can go ahead and invite those for the West Coast. West Coast not with us today, huh? All right. Okay. Got a couple from the UK out there. Won't y'all text me? Let me know y'all where y'all coming from today on the chat, in both Clubhouse and on Facebook and on YouTube, wherever you guys are coming from. South Africa, the UK, many parts of the UK, as well as from Vietnam. Those of you in other regions of Africa. I've not heard from my Mali group in a while. And so we're looking to see you guys and hear from you soon, as well as those of you here in the stateside. Let me know what part of the continent you're on. All right. It'd be good to have you, whether you're from Canada, South America, or whether you are right here in the good old US of A. Well, we're going to say the US of A. All right. Whatever time zone you're on, let us know where you're at. If you're in the islands, Puerto Rico, it doesn't matter, Cuba, let us know where you are. And we just want to go ahead and talk about the word of Elohim today. So we've said our prayer, and today we have a very interesting conversation. We talk about man's fashion. Man's fashion in truest form. The way we make this statement clear and helpful, I pray for all of us to understand, is that Elohim created man. He fashioned man in his image and in his likeness. And he ultimately dressed man. And we know that because of what he says in the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapters number 2 and 3, that when Elohim created man, he made man in his image and in his likeness, and then he placed man in a particular space. Now it gets really interesting because today's subject matter is that man's fashion can literally change the true image or view of the body Elohim made. I'm going to say it again. Man's fashioning, man's fashions, man's artistic work, man's imagery trying to project its own imagery changes the view of the imagery that Elohim had created and given to us. So I want to take a moment to sort of, if you will allow me, to break this down from the writ and then show you how that translates into other potential problem areas when it comes to how we dress ourselves, how we view ourselves, thereby ultimately how the world views us as ambassadors of Elohim, and thereby can skew in that uninformed mind the elements of the kingdom and make them to some degree non-effective. So I want to share a little bit with you before we do this. You'll watch this slide. Some of you need to get your Bibles open. Tune in with me on the VWJ Ministries on Facebook and on YouTube, and let's look at our Bibles. But there's a comment I want to make to you guys. Again, you know, the broadcast today is the proceeding word, and how we are putting ourselves in a position as best we know how to in fact realize that man's fashions can change the true image or view of the body. Now, many of you thought I meant the body of Christ, right? Well, you can't change the view of the body of Christ, but you can change the church in which the body resides and have that image, make it look as if that is all you need to do, and never press toward the mark of the prize of the higher calling, which is in Yeshua HaMashiach. So we have this understanding that man's fashions can change the body of Elohim's design, and can cause the body of Elohim's design to disappear from sight, or at least appear unsightly. Man's theology, which is what we're going to deem as fashion, covers, in many cases, over the designer's original body, i.e. the human, which in fact, the human body in his image is what Elohim's true purpose was. Remember when I told you, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. So before we get into some issues here, I want to walk to James chapter number 1. And we're going to begin at verse number 23. And I want you guys to look at this from how we say this, so we can learn how to live more practically according to the instructions of Elohim at this time. So in the book of James, chapter 1, I want you to go to verse number 23. Well, I can really do the whole chapter. Time doesn't always permit it. So let's make sure we get there. James 1, let's go to verse number 23, and let's look at it from that respect. Come quickly. Remember, man's fashioning covers over the designer's original, which affects the purpose and makes the view of that designer's original skewed. I'm going to break it down biblically. I'm going to break it down by Torah as well as the Brit Hadassa. We will use a little bit of the Tanakh. So you got questions or thoughts? We got a little bit of time today. We can chat about it, talk about it, get at it, whatever you like to do. But let's look at James. I'll make an effort here to reverse engineer. So we're going to start in the New Testament. We're going to start in the Brit Hadassa. Then we're going to go back to the Old Testament. We're going to get back into the Tanakh. And then we're going to go deeper into the Torah, which will be the book of beginnings and Bereshit, Genesis chapters number 2. Let's look at what the word says. This is James, the apostle James, talking in James chapter 1, verse number, here we go, 23. Watch this closely. For if any be a hearer of the word, the Torah, and not a doer of the word, the Torah, he, that person, is like unto a man beholding his face in a glass. And he beholds himself, and he goes his way. and straightway he forgets what manner of man he was. But whoever looks into the perfect Torah of liberty, somebody say the Torah gives you liberty. The word gives you liberty. Somebody say that. And I want y'all to understand this because it's extremely important to realize what it does for us. The word gives us liberty. Look at verse number 24 again, James 1:24. For he beholds himself and he goes his way, and right away he forgets what manner of man he is or was. Now, verse 25 says, but whoever looks into the perfect Torah of liberty and continues therein, he, that person, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work of the perfect law of liberty, the Torah, this man shall be blessed. He shall be empowered to accomplish and successfully complete any of the deeds he gets from the perfect law of liberty, from the book of instructions, from the Torah. Now, I hope that you understood verse 25, because I'm going to read it again for those of you who only understand KJV. But whosoever looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues therein, that person being not a forgetful hearer, but being a doer of that work, this man shall be empowered in his deed. Verse 26, if any man among you, if any human being among you, man, woman, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher, right reverend, prelate, bishop, overseer, your eminence, your priest, whatever you want to call them. If any man, your neighbor, your cousin, your spiritualist, your whoever deems, watch this, if any man among you seems to be religious and does not know how to bridle his or her tongue, but they end up deceiving their own heart, this man, this woman, this person's religion is vain. Now, I want to break this down real quick before we move on to 27, because I want to give you what religious looks like, at least from the pretext of this Greek, from the perspective of the Greek. So the word here, if you look at your Bibles, you look at the screen, I got my Bible up so you guys can work with me from this. You can see the Strong's Concordance, its transliterations, its pronunciations, and now I want you to look at its Strong's definition. So it goes on to say that this word, G2357, for religion, religious, is the word threscos. Okay, threscos. Now, it probably is from the base of 2360, which means ceremonious in worship, as demonstrative, i.e., watch this, pious or religious. Now, let's go back to where it says it's probably got its base from. So in the Greek, 2360, this word 2357 gets its formation. So from G2360, the translation here is throio, okay, which comes from the word thriomai, to veil, to wail, to clamor unto. For example, by implication, to frighten, to trouble. So we have an issue where throio, coming from throimai, meaning to wail and or to clamor, are two separate defines for this word, because the next define means to frighten you or to cause you trouble. But this word religion should never cause you trouble, should it? It should never cause you to be afraid. It should cause you to have reverence, i.e. another verbiage of noun for fear, but it should never make you by fact frightened or troubled. So there's two definitions, and you understand the breakdown of this word. Now in verse 26, we give you the word religious again. It is the word 2357, threkos, which comes from the base of threo, right? But it means ceremonious in your worship. Now, anybody can tell me, I need somebody to come off mic. I need a volunteer to help me. Does anybody know what it means to truly worship Elohim. So when we talk about ceremony, say your name so I can give one person a chance to speak. So ceremonious in worship, based on our understanding of worship, would mean what? Who could tell me what worship means from a biblical perspective and anything around what Yeshua HaMashiach promoted? Can anybody tell me what worship represents? Say your name, come off mic, and I'll gladly give you platform. Wanda, go. I need you to speak up. I can barely hear you, though.
Worship means obedience.
The word worship, typically within and throughout the Bible at large, whether the 66 books or the 84 books, in the concept of worship, which sometimes gets translated in the Greek as praising. Worship comes from a word avoda, and it also incorporates the reality that worship means to obey an instruction. And so when you ceremoniously obey the instructions that James is alluding to, James's ideology and his conversation here is about verse number 23. If anyone hears these instructions and not be a doer of these instructions, that man is like looking at his face in a glass. For if he beholds himself, he don't even know what kind of man he is. But whoever looks into this book of instructions, this Torah, this law of liberty, perfect law of liberty, and continues in it, him not being a forgetful hearer, but a doer of that work, meaning ceremoniously follows those instructions, ceremoniously worships, this man is the one who is empowered by Elohim to accomplish all of his deeds. This would then bring you back to breaking down and understand Psalms 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of the sinner, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the Torah. And in that Torah does he meditate day and night, i.e. Shabbat, and he shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water, whose fruit shall not wither, whose leaf shall not wither, whose fruit his leaf shall not wither, whose fruit will bear his fruit in due season. But here's the point I was trying to get to, rushing and messing it up. Here's the point to get to, and whatever he does, whatever she does, will prosper. And so this is the thing that you've really got to sort of understand about how you have to make sure you know what's in your entirety of your Bible, what's coming from the writ, what's coming from the prophets of the Torah, and what is being explained by the apostles of the Brit Hadassa, i.e. New Testament, and from those who are sharing their testimonials from the actual places that are known as the history and the testimony of the first church with Moshe and the first church with Yeshua HaMashiach. What? First church? 2 of them? Yeah, I said that. Go do your study. You'll know why it's done that way. So the point here is that James is letting you know that any man who keeps the word to do the word. Somebody say worship means obey. I want to thank y'all for your obedience there in that same concept. So now before I leave this passage again, I want to take you thoroughly back into verse number 25. But whoever looks into the perfect law of liberty, that's the Torah, and continues in the Torah. Does everybody believe that when we talk about the perfect law of liberty, we're talking about the Torah?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all confirming. That's good to hear. Good to hear. Good to hear. So we are confirming that the perfect law of liberty is the Torah. And if you continue in the instructions of the Torah, because the Torah is the book of instructions, that person is a doer of that work. That person shall be, in fact, blessed, empowered in all of his deeds or her deeds. Now, if any man among you seems to be religious, because in the book of the Torah, in the book of the law of liberty, if you can't bridle your tongue, clearly you deceive your own heart. And this man's efforts at following the instructions for life to get perfect liberty, to experience in his life, deceives his own heart, and his religion, his ceremonious actions, are in vain. Now, I purposely have not taken you guys to verse 27 just so we can sort of explore this and extrapolate from this passage of James's very unique writing to indicate that religion is, again, in some instances, pious. But I want to show you what religion, I gave you the definition for religious from verse 26. Let me take you now to what it means in verse 27 to have pure religion. Now, religion here is the word, it's coupled, but it comes from tres kaya. Now, tres kaya is a word, has a derivative from the word we use as throies, which would be 2357, but it means religion means ceremonial observance. Notice it then says religion, comma, worshiping. Because no matter what we say, observance and obedience are what make your religion pure. And that's where you get from Devarim, if I reverse engineer this correctly, and you go into Devarim chapter number 28, he tells you very clearly there, and I want to share this with you guys. Go with me to Devarim 28 so we can see this, and you won't think that we're making this up along the way. We will come back to James 1:27, but I want you to go to Devarim 28 with me very quickly, and we're talking about what observance of the obedience and observing does. Look at verse 1. It shall come to pass if you will hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. Can y'all say Torah?
Torah.
Come on, stay on mic. I want some more people to say this next one. Say this next one with me. Say this next one with me. Say the next one with me. So now we know that the voice of Yahweh is Torah. Can you also now say the perfect law of liberty? So when you read Devarim 28, it can go and say, it shall come to pass if you shall hearken diligently unto the perfect law of liberty, unto the Torah, unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, which would be understandably Adonai. If you will, let me do it again. If you shall hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to what? Observe. There we go again. To observe and to do all of his commandments, which I command you this day, that Yahweh your Elohim will set you on high above all the nations of the earth. Does that sound like James is sort of kind of parroting what Devarim 28 is saying in these passages of James 1:23-27? I think it is. I wouldn't even give you a chance to respond. I'm going to tell you that's exactly what's happening. So now you know that even James is parroting the Torah. Now you get caught up in James because you think he's just going to parrot Yeshua, who is, of course, carrying out the Torah, though they're not far and it's still the same thing. Be very certain that James is not moving away from the perfect law of instructions and liberty. He's not moving away from the book of instructions. He's not moved away from the Torah. He explains it for a generation long after the Torah was written. So he makes it clear. Back to James, back to James, back to James. If you're watching on screen, you should have this information readily accessible to you. And I want you to see it so we can follow it, because man don't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. And you can see I took you back to Torah, which is the word of Elohim, the perfect law of liberty, the Torah, to show you that James is simply mimicking, parroting what was already written. Look at verse number 26 again, then we'll hit 27 and get off of this passage. If any man among you seem to be religious, act like you are giving Yahweh what he wants, and does not know how to bridle his tongue, can't control his anger, can't forgive, can't cancel debt, can't stop cursing, cussing, and getting so angry that he's upset, cursing rather, and getting upset that if he can't bridle his own tongue, if he can't bring every thought into subjection to the word of Elohim, if he can't bring himself to the point where he will obey the word that he has supposedly hidden in his heart, if that man who is among you, who seems to be doing all this stuff, who is praying in your sanctuary, praying on your street corners, propagating whatever version of this doctrine he's a part of, and he cannot bridle his tongue. He gets caught up in every little battle, gets caught up in every little debate, gets caught up in every argument. He does not know how to bridle his tongue, but he deceives his own heart because he thinks what he's doing is righteous. Just like many people who believe that when I take opportunity to judge somebody because they've sinned differently than I sin, and I don't know how to bridle my tongue, and I go run tell that, and I don't take that in prayer to the Father and gird that towards him and drive that towards him rather than somebody else, that's all a part of bridling your tongue, guarding your mouth, right? So when you understand what James is saying, he's like, if you gonna act like you so religious and you can't even at bare minimum bridle your tongue, that man's religion, that man's ceremonial displays are literally in vain. Now, let's just break down what it means to be in vain. Well, Apostle, your topic today is about man's fashioning, changing the true image of the body Elohim created. Remember, I told you we reverse engineering. I need to get you this piece now so you see it practically, and then I'm going to show you the actual instruction and how it began to go awry over time. And we don't have a lot of time to do that, but I promise you it's going to be fun if you stick with us for a few moments. Verse 26, any man among you seems religious, bridle not his tongue, but deceives his own heart. That man's religion is in vain. The word vain, vain. Vain. It is the Greek word, right? For Mateos, all right? And that means empty. It comes from the base 3152, comes from the base word 3155, which means empty. I mean, literally means profitless. More importantly, it means, or specifically, it's idol. It's an idol worship, a demagoguery. It's something that is not of Elohim. It is vain. Of course, you know the word vanity. The English gives you a definition of vanity that would appear to be appropriate in verse 26. But I don't want you to realize or utilize that word that way. I want you to understand its base. It means your worship, your ceremonial, that person's ceremonial, that man who seems to be religious but cannot bridle his tongue and deceives his own heart, that person, that man, that woman, that preacher, that bishop, whoever, that politician, his ceremonial observance and attempt to obey is empty. It is profitless. It is literally serving a demigod. It is serving an idol. That goes pretty deep, don't it? Because what we've done with religion, let me just say this before I go further in case we lose time and run out of time, my battery dies before I can really break down the reverse engineering. Whenever we talk about religion or someone seems to be religious, we wear that garb of our religiosity. That's why you hear me always cracking jokes about churchiosity and religiosity. And that's why this verse 27, is going to break down what we need to understand about it. So remember, when a person can't even obey the words that they say they're propagating, as it were, to bridle their tongue, because everybody errs, okay? Don't get it twisted. There is no person perfect save Messiah. He showed us how to be perfect, but you and I came into this world and we did so much unperfect stuff before we met his perfectness that we have messed ourselves up. All have sinned. All have come short of the glory of Elohim. My point to this, though, is that if a person puts on such a religious air and aura and they can't bridle their tongue, they can't bridle their thoughts, they can't bring down what needs to be brought down unto subjection to the word of Elohim, no matter what the case, no matter what the subject, no matter what the matter, then that person's observance, or I should say that person's ceremonial presentation of their shallow words are literally empty. And though you might convince people with your words, your deed and your action and the efficacy of that presentation is fruitless to the recipients that are hearing you. Now, what has been done? They wore their religion. They wore their religiosity, and they wore their ceremonial observance, which isn't according to the word, because the vein of it means it's idol worship. And what we don't realize, as we'll talk about in Genesis, is that when Yahweh dresses you and then you undress to redress yourself, you are idol worship. You are in vain. You're in a whole nother vanity. You're not in the intentionalism and the intentionality, pardon me, of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Now, if y'all got that, I need you to type it in and say, oh my goodness, I got that. All right, so I'm going to move on. Let's keep it pressing. So now let's push right here quickly into James chapter, James 1. We're still in verse number 26. I'm going to repeat it. I know you're tired of hearing it, but I think it's not edifying. It is advantageous to do so. So look closely. Verse 26. If any man among you who seems to be religious, anybody know some religious people? Y'all can call me religious if you want. I don't care. Because I am sometimes. Because you are sometimes. How many of us can admit that we don't always bridle our tongue? Y'all not going to talk to me on this great day? I'm trying to give you a gift that keeps on giving. How many times do we not know how to bridle our tongue because we so deep trying to do what we do with our version of religiosity? We think it might be justified for us to go ahead and say, well, look, I know I'm not trying to judge nobody, but did you know what such and so did? And I know we just want to pray for them. That's a bunch of malarkey. It's baloney. That's fallacy. You don't control your tongue. You're not bridling your tongue. You're not obeying the instructions that tell you not to murder your brother. And when you gossip or you tell that about your brother, you fall into several different categories. One, you're murdering your brother. You're going to embarrass them amongst other people who may be their peers, cohorts, or some similar facsimile thereof. And at the end of the day, it's for what reason? What do you gain from it? So when you go out and you embarrass your brother, do you not know when you make your brother or your sister blush from an embarrassment of you being non-confidential about issues concerning them, that you literally shed their blood when they blush? It's something you might not like to talk about, think I'm being petty and just not being real, but it's an actual fact. So when you and I don't know how to bridle our tongue, and though we're wearing this image of being religious, and when everybody know that, oh yeah, I pray for them and I'm praying for this and we believe in God for that, and we got prayer warrior groups going on all that time, and I don't care how much prayer warrioring you do, if you still gossiping and cussing, you this dude. And that dude could be you, woman. Dude is typically given to a masculine entity, but it can be a feminine entity as well. So if you're doing all this prayer and all this right here, but you can't wait to tell what you're praying about to somebody who's got nothing to do with it, you this person. And your image of that religiosity, that vanity, causes the body that you said you wanted to be a part of, his faith, to have a view by the recipient of your actions that says, that's not a good look. Now, the body's not wrong, but you have thrown a cast. You have set what we call an actual garb over the imagery that Yahweh had intended, and thereby people seeing it, because you're now the partition between the body. They think the body dresses and looks like you and the garb you've put on. And now you've skewed the image of the body. You've skewed the image of what Elohim wanted. Can I reverse engineer this? I got to cut through the chase right now. I got to cut through the field. Y'all mind if I cut through the field? I can't go around all the lights. The scenic route, I can't take the scenic route today. Can I cut through the field? Can I cut through the field? The way you said the please do was almost like, man, will you get to the point? I heard that. I want you to know, in my innermost sprite, I heard you. Can you get to the point? Please get to the point. Okay, I'm cutting through the field. Here we go. Watch. So let's go to the book. I was just playing with you, whoever said that. I was just messing with you. I thought it might be funny. You know, y'all supposed to be in a festive mood, I guess. I don't know. Genesis chapter number 2. Y'all ready? Let's go there real quick. Watch this. I'm going to show you what we just talked about and what James, in essence, is parroting from two different places. The first place we took you was Devarim chapter 28, verse 1. We could have took you to 15 as well. If any man hearkens not to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, this won't happen for you. But if you do, this will happen to you. So the issue is you got to know what pure and true religion is. Now, I made the mistake of jumping out of James before I went to Genesis. So I got to go back to James 1:27 and finish the passage. Matter of fact, let's stay in Genesis. I think, thank you, Yahweh, I can do it. It might even work out better that way. All right, Genesis chapter 2. Watch this. Chapter 3, pardon me. Chapter 3. Nope. Chapter 2. Let's go. All right. Genesis chapter 2, verse number, let's go to 3. Here we got it. Watch this closely. No, let's go down to verse 18. Sorry, 15. I've been 15. I'm looking, my glasses, 15 look like 18. All right, ready? Let's read. And Yahweh our Elohim took the human, and he put that man in the Garden of Eden, the human in the Garden of Eden, to dress the garden and to keep it. Somebody shout instructions. Come on, shout instructions. Verse 16 goes deeper and says, and then Yahweh our Elohim commanded the man, somebody say instructions, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in that day that you eat thereof you shall surely die. One more time, help me, somebody say instructions. Verse 18 goes on to say, and then Yahweh, who is our Elohim, said, it's not good that man should be alone. This is what your Bible says. I'm going to keep moving. Those of you who are marriage counselor, you know how to say that differently. He says, I will make for humanity a helpmeet. Verse 19, out of the ground, Yahweh our Elohim formed every beast of the field, every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now, I need y'all to really focus on this because it's going to get really twisted. Now, watch. He says in verse number 20, and Adam gave names to all the cattle. Can y'all say instructions? He gave names to the cattle, the fowl of the air, to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was not found a helpmeet for him. Verse 21, Elohim, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon the human named Adam. And Adam slept. And Yahweh took one of the ribs, closed up the flesh thereof instead, and the rib which Yahweh our Elohim had taken from the human, he made a woman and brought her unto the man. Watch this, verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall man leave his father and his mother, cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. But they were both. Watch this. They were both naked. Somebody said that's Yahweh's fashioning.
That's Yahweh's fashioning.
No, I want y'all all to. I want more people to say it than that, and I don't want y'all to say it unless you understand it. So I'm gonna come back to it later on and wait for me to say it. So get your fingers close to the microphone because we're gonna do this like a unit. Verse 24. When I bring it to you, bring it to me. Watch this. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife. They shall be one flesh. Here we go. Watch this. Verse 25. It says, and they were both naked. Someone say that's Yahweh's fashion. The man and his wife were naked. And they were not ashamed. So when they walked down the catwalk, there was nothing to be ashamed about. Oh, y'all not going to talk to me? I told you I feel festive. So watch what he says. The man and the woman were both naked. That's Yahweh's. That's the designer original. That's the designers, or there is no designer like Adonai, like Yahweh. And the designer's original has been altered by man. Watch this. Come on, talk to me for a few moments. You can say ooh, wee, or ouch. That's good. That's right. Whatever you want to say, but let's say something. Look at verse number 20. Look at verse number Genesis chapter 3. Now, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Verse 1. Which Yahweh or Elohim had made, and he had said unto the woman, you, yea, woman, hath not Elohim told you all, you shall not eat of the tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Verse 3, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim said, somebody say instruction. Somebody say instruction. Instruction. Say Yahweh's fashion. Say Yahweh's fashion. Elohim said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you're not going to surely die, for Elohim doth know the day that you eat thereof, your eyes shall be open. Now you got this fashion streak in you, right? Your eyes shall be open. Now you see in colors the way you want to see them. Your eyes shall be open. Now you putting fabrics together where you think fabric should go. Your eyes shall be open, and you're putting hues together and dyeing this down and adding this color. Your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods. You gonna know good from evil. You know what tastes right. You know what look good. You know what fashion is. Verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was in fact good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, somebody say fashion, and it was a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, she ate it and gave it to her husband who was standing there with her. Say he was right there with her. Say it. Say he was right there with her.
He was right there with her.
And that joker ate it. Now he got the pleasant to the eyes look. Now he got the fashion sense. Y'all not going to talk to me. Okay, verse 7. And the eyes of them both were open. They both got fashion sense now. Instead of having good sense, now they got fashion sense. Y'all not going to talk to me. See, in chapter 2, Yahweh gave them good sense. They was naked and they were not ashamed. Now in chapter 3, they done went ahead and disobeyed the instructions. Now they got fashion sense. So let me just keep going. I'm just having fun with delivering the message in a way we might be able to understand it in modern day times. Verse number 7 says, the eyes of them both, verse 7, the eyes of them both were open. They knew that they were naked. See how they just changed Yahweh's fashion? And then they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
Wrong fashion.
Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Are y'all picking up what the word is trying to put down before us? That our vanity causes the world looking for Elohim to not see the plan of Elohim. Because now once we've disobeyed the instructions of Elohim, we tried to fashion over it. We tried to paint over it. Now, when Yahweh made humanity, humanity was naked. Somebody say that's the first fashion. Now, don't get your minds in some weird place. I'm talking realistically from the writ. Naked was the fashion, and it was not a shame, and it was not something to be what we consider to be today, something to be embarrassed about. They were not ashamed. But when they disobeyed Elohim, now their eyes are open. They think they're like Elohim. They think that their nakedness is a bad thing. They think that it is something to cover up. So now the garb that Yahweh has given, they're covering up. Now, if y'all can keep this in the simplest sense and stop letting your mind, because a Christian, take you to a sexual place. This is not about sexuality. This is about understanding how we've changed the fashion sense of Elohim in the earth, and we made our own. These people put fig leaves together, been on the earth one day, don't know what a fig leaf even is fully, and they trying to stitch it together to put it over them. Clearly, they did not know what a fig leaf was, because if they would have known that a fig leaf would not have covered them, and if they would have known that a fig leaf would have covered them temporarily, but after a few days, that thing is going to become sticky. It's going to become scratchy. It's going to become abrasive to their flesh, because they think that they know how to put fabrics together now. So I wonder sometimes, and this is me being subjective. I'm going to be eisegetical right now on purpose. All right. And I want y'all just to fathom it. I'm not trying to preach this is truth and gospel, but I'm curious, because I really had a problem with Adam when he did this. I'm like, why would you, if you had no issues in your fashion sense, you had the latest designers original, there was no other designer on the planet, you was popping, it was cracking, you had that drip, you was it. Why in the world, what in the world made you think, with you having been created and given a body and a form and an image by the Creator, immaculate, You were not embarrassed. You were not ashamed. And suddenly you disobeyed Elohim. And now all of a sudden everything you knew is wrong. So now you decided to walk through the garden. You looked at the apple tree and felt its leaves. No, it was too plasticky. You went down and you saw the begonias and like, no, they were just a little too pushy. And then you went down and saw the gardenias, and then the gardenias, well, it was too many bees that kept coming around the gardenia leaves and blossoms. And then you went over to the plum tree, and the plum tree you couldn't, and then you went to the almond tree, and the almond tree, the leaf was just, and then you found the right texture, that velvety texture on the backside of the fig leaf. And you said, this is the texture we want right here. This is it. Voila. We're going to Milan. Milan wasn't even made then. I'm being subjective. I'm having fun. It's okay. This going to be this going to be just the fun version. So I'm like, Adam, what were you doing walking down through all the trees? The sycamore tree wasn't right for you. The elm tree, because that's hard. The holly leaves, that was hard. But the fig tree was soft enough for you to have that velvety cashmere finish, and you stitched it together to put it on your God-given Elohim created body and his fashion, and you overwrote Elohim's design. Now the world sees Elohim differently because you're not in the proper garb, and now we won't be able to be in the proper garb. And this becomes problematic. So from that natural analogy and concept, you now have a spiritual reality. So the connotations spiritually are just as unfortunate. So now we have the Torah. We have the instructions. Even a redeeming element from Adam's era. We can get back, and now Messiah gives us a robe. But suddenly, as in the book of James, we find out that we have people who are talking about and talking like David, thy word I've hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. And then finally, they still go ahead and sin against him. And you've changed the image. You've made the image of Elohim's intention look different to the recipients he's trying to get the attention of. And I'm talking about us redressing and not addressing by Elohim's word. But we are redressing because it's like refried beans. We get the beans Elohim gave us, and then we refry them because we didn't want to spoil them and lose them or whatever. And now they're different taste than the original bean, the original. So at the end of the day, we are redoing what he gave us a commandment on. Adam and Ishai, they were perfectly fashioned. Their disobedience caused them to refashion themselves. The faith of Yeshua HaMashiach by Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkah, and the concept of Elohim's kingdom being manifested in the earth was perfect, is perfect, does not need to be changed, but somehow Judaism, Christianity, and other faith systems that are stems from that have begun to put this religious aura and air and arrogance and intellectuality of humanity on top of Elohim's pureness of intentionality. And now we redress. And we can't find the body because of the garb we are wearing, stitching, and changing fashions and changing colors and changing hues and adding more fabrics to every day when Elohim gave us one robe of righteousness. And we have redressed ourselves. Well, I can't wear righteousness today because I feel like I want to turn up. So I'm gonna put on this. This ain't got all righteousness. It got Polly and Esther. So today I'm gonna wear Polly and Esther. I'm not gonna wear righteousness. But I'll wear righteousness on maybe on Sabbath and maybe on the Moedim and maybe church service. But today I gotta wear Polly and Esther, and then I'm gonna go get cousin Ray on for the next outfit on Thursday, and then I'm gonna get, y'all know what I'm talking about, and then you got what's that stretchy stuff? Rayon and say, what's that one that you got? What's the one that cling to your body? Spandex. Yeah, you got spandex. Now, yo, if you get cellulite, don't wear spandex unless it's gonna be under another garment. Okay, everybody don't need to see them grits. It's just not everybody don't need to see them. So see how the fashion can mess up everything. Like why? Tell me why. So my job is done here. I think I've done it decent enough that you understand that the fashion of Elohim is the fashion we should desire. The robe of righteousness and the garments of Yahweh, who is our Elohim, are what we want and what we need. When we get religious, this is what James is talking about. Let's go to James chapter 1. We're going to finish verse 27 now, and I can let you guys have your fun with this. All right. So look closely at it. Okay. YouTube, I got questions out there. All right.
Yes, you do.
Rukia services. Don't go nowhere. Please just hang on a second. I'll answer your questions, but don't leave. Don't drop it and then leave. Otherwise, I have to delete it because you left. But stay right there. If you just got here late, stay right there. I'll answer your questions. Okay. But don't leave. Tell me you're not going to leave. Type it in the text. All you got to do is tell me you're not going to leave. And you just give me 5 paragraphs. I'll answer each of them, but don't leave. Don't drop it and bounce. Stay right there until we can get you your answers. Okay. They're great questions, by the way. So don't leave. All right, let's get through this with James chapter 1. Come. James 1:27. We're going to end this here. Now I have to recap with 26 because that's where we started. That took us over to Bereshit chapter number 2 and 3. And you understand that Yahweh had a fashion. Man has a new fashion, right? Man got this knowledge of good and evil. Now he thinks he can design like Elohim, right? Without the instructions of Elohim or in contrast to the instructions of Elohim. So I want to make sure we're clear on this. Look at verse number 26. If a man among you, any man among you seem to be religious, bridles not his tongue, deceives his own heart, that man's religion is vain. Pure religion, here it is. This is why we brought this up. Pure religion. Now that word religion, again, is the word threskia, right? In the Greek. Pure religion and undefiled before Elohim and Yahweh is this. Here's what I like. This is pure ceremonial worship, ceremonial instruction obedience, right? The carrying out ceremoniously of the instructions by observance and doing. The pureness of that and the undefiled of that before Elohim is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep that person's self unspotted from the world. Unspotted from the world. So when you look at this, everybody say, oh, to be pure religion, you visit the fathers. So now all the churches went and started convalescent ministries and hospital ministries and prison ministries. Those are cute charitable opportunities and things, but this is deeper than that. You don't visit them just because they're in the institution. You visit them in their affliction. Yeah, that goes deeper. You don't just show up at the convalescent center. You don't just show up at the prison. You don't just show up at the hospital and go to ICU waving oil and slinging and singing songs and taking your prayer cloth, sweat cloth, and whipping it around with your cross on your pec, on your chest, and then you walking through the hospital singing Kumbaya, dear Lord. No, that's not what they're saying. You visit the fatherless in their affliction. You visit the motherless in the widow in their affliction. And you keep yourself by the instructions of Torah, the perfect law of liberty, unspotted. You follow the instructions like I have to do, like you have to do. And man, it bugs me that we don't always nail it, because we don't end up being unspotted from some of the things that Yahweh says don't do. How many of y'all know you done judged somebody already this week, like 4 times? Even when you said, oh God, forgive me for judging the person, turn around the next day and thought the same situation over again and judged it again in that capacity and in that way. So at end of day, you got to realize what you're contending with, what you're struggling with. And this is what the word says. You have to keep yourself unspotted from the world. That's what the instructions of fashion is with Elohim. And we have given every other form and version of fashion that Elohim has never instructed. Now, let me finish this because we did this in really good time. I promise to get y'all done shortly and out of here. And I want y'all to watch this. So I'm going to hit these questions really quick. So do y'all understand what James is saying here when he says this? I'm again, verse 27. Pure religion, I'm gonna put it on screen so y'all can see it. Pure religion. This is pure religion. And remember what religion is. The word religion here is the word tres kei, right? Which means, and is derived from 2357, it means ceremonial observance, and it incorporates worship. Remember, this is predicated on the word worship, meaning to obey the instructions given. So your worship is not you just walking inside of a church and screaming hallelujah. That is an instruction. Give Yahweh praise, right? Praise him in the morning, praise him in the noonday, praise him as they're going down to the sun, right? Giving him thanks in all things. But worship is not the emotional crying and laying out and wailing and moaning and groaning in some sense of vanity, but it is in fact honoring what he said to do. Be there at the times he's called for. That's what the instructions are there for. Be there for Shabbat. Be there for your Moedims. Be there. Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto Yahweh, which is your reasonable service. Why is it reasonable service? Because it's Elohim's instruction. He made it very clear. Do this. I got everything else. You and I got to understand that. So now let me answer some of these questions. You understand when James makes this statement, pure religion, your ceremonial observance of the instructions you are to follow are to visit the fatherless, visit the widows in their affliction, and keep yourself unspotted from the world. In a nutshell, just like Messiah told you before, in a nutshell. People think that, oh, there's only 2 commandments. You love God with your whole heart, mind, body, soul, and energy, and then you love your neighbor like you love yourself. Well, these 3 here could substitute for those 2 there and still be saying the same thing. Because all of those instructions, all 5 of them, Yeshua's 2 that says serve Yahweh your whole heart, mind, body, soul, and energy, and then your neighbor as yourself, and then James talking about the father, the widow, and unspot yourself. All of those are in the same exact book of instructions. So people will tell you, oh, Jesus did that. There ain't no more 10 commandments. You don't do the 10 commandments. You do the 2. You special. And I love you. But we're going to learn today. All right. So that's what we got to understand. Now, let's go back here real quick because I got a question. I don't want to let this go by before we talk about it. All right. Let me start at the top, Ryu. Rukia. So let's look at what he got. What you got here? Somebody give me the first question. I can't see it.
Yes, God said Adam was, where are you? Where are you? I'm sorry. God said, Adam, where are you? Mm-hmm. Isn't God all-knowing?
Right. It's not and Rakia services. So what have you to do? Is that so what have we to do with the sin of Adam? Is that before or after that question? I'm at before. 3. What timestamp is on your question?
I don't have timestamps.
You should. All right. So.
But the first one is the one I gave you.
Okay. Thank you. Hold on a second. And which person was calling out to Adam? Okay. Let me go back again. God said, okay, 3:02 is the timestamp. All right, so Rupa, I'm going to run your questions in sequence. I'm going to hit them off and knock them off. Please let me know you're still here, because if he's not here, I'm not going to waste the time. If they're not here, I'm not going to waste the time doing that. But
he was going to wait.
All right, that was then. I need to know now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your help, though. Appreciate you helping out. So services, let me know if you're still here, because if I hit these, I'm not going to stop, but I want you to make sure you're here to get them. All right. I'm here. Appreciate you answering. You're more than welcome. All right. So I'm going to put it on the screen. For those of you who are watching, you can see the questions come up on the screen. God said, Adam, where are you? Isn't God all knowing? Isn't God all knowing? Yes. Elohim is all knowing. He wasn't confused as to where Adam was. If you pay attention to Genesis chapter number 1, Elohim created man in his image. When you get to the end of chapter 1, and we can take you there very quickly so you can understand this question without me having you to think that we're adding anything to the writ. You can see this for yourself. Elohim was not asking where Adam was physically, nor was he asking where Adam was spiritually. He already knew the answer. And because I do so much counseling, I'm the same way. I ask questions that I already know the answer to. I just want to wait to see how you answer it so I know how to deal with you. Because I'm created in my Father's image. You're created in your Father's image. And all of us have done it. How many of y'all have done that? You've asked a question you knew the answer to. You just wanted to see how they was going to deal with the question. Anybody? All right. So Genesis chapter 1, if you look at this, verse number 30. Watch this. Verse number 30. 29. Elohim said, I've given you the herb building seeds, which is upon the face of the earth, every tree which is the tree yielding fruit, to you it shall be for meat. 30, and to every beast of the earth, to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given you every green herb for meat. Verse 31, Elohim saw that everything he had made, and then he beheld that it was very good. And the evening and the morning were day number 6. All right, so day 6, Elohim made man and everything else that came before man. However, when it comes to day number 7, he made man in chapter 2 to sit with him in Sabbath. Now, he gave man instructions, as we show you now in chapter 2. Watch the screen. Pay attention to the screen. Pay attention to the screen. Now watch. He tells you in Genesis chapter 2, verse 8, Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. Verse 15, come down with me to 15. Yahweh took man, put him in the garden to dress it. Elohim gave man command, said, don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but don't eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. When day you do that, you shall surely die. All right. And then he lets him know that he's going to be disconnected from the life-giving element that is Yahweh our Elohim if you eat that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. All right. So when we ask, doesn't God know where he's at? Isn't he all knowing? He absolutely is. In the Greek, they call him omniscient. In the Hebrew, we call him Yahweh Shammah. There's other things we can give you. We also call him El Shaddai. All right. So there is no doubt about him being all knowing. Now, if we want to get technical and ask, well, why wouldn't God know where Adam was? He did know where Adam was. But he wanted Adam to be able to understand where he was, where he put himself. Adam, where are you at, man? What is you doing, bro? Anybody ever walked up to somebody and said, man, what's going on with you, bro? Why are you in that state? Why are you over there? You already know why they over there. Man, what's wrong with you? You know they drunk. You know they high. You know they tripping. You know they on an ego trip. You know they've been hyped up, gassed up. These are typical concepts and metaphors. But at the end of the day, Elohim clearly knew where Adam was. He asked Adam for Adam's sake. All right. So I'm going to keep going from that question. All right. That answers that question, our services. Now I'm going to come down to another timestamp you got here at 3:11. You also ask a question. So what do we have to do with sin? What do we have to do with the sin of Adam, that we are born with original sin? How is that just? All right. So you got question marks. I'm going to say this the way I think you're asking the question. So bear with me while I try to pull what you put on text together. So what do we have to do with the sin of Adam, that we were born with original sin? If you pay attention to what Yahweh did in the book of Bereshit, chapter number 2 and 3, you will realize in chapter 3, verses 14 through 16, that Elohim dealt with doling out physical punishment and rewards, or because the wage of sin is death. He passed out punishment to the body of the serpent and the body of the female. And then what he said was he would put seed in woman to correct this problem. I just paraphrase, but it's right there. He says, I'm going to bring seed to deal with this, the seed of the woman, not the seed of the man. Now, masculinity has the seed called the spermatozoa. Femininity has the eggs that are within the ovaries, and the spermatozoa finds the eggs, and then it incubates in the womb of the woman. Now, understand this. He does not use the seed, the spermatozoa, the duplicator of life, from the man, because it's now contaminated with the knowledge of good and evil. So because Yeshua was the only one on this planet not born after man's seed, barring Adam himself. Let me say that again. Yeshua HaMashiach was the only one, based on the prophecy of Genesis 3:14 through 16, preferably verse 15, that indicates that Yahweh would give a new seed, a fresh seed, not from Adam, not from masculinity, not from the spermatozoa provider. So every other human on this planet outside of Adam, Ishai, and Yeshua came from Adam and Ishai. Yeshua come from Yahweh and Ishai. Not that they came together and copulated, but Yahweh touched and created in an earthen vessel the same way he made the first man, Adam. When he touched the dirt on the earth, formed man, breathed into man, Adam, became a living soul. But man messed up, contaminated itself with the knowledge of good and evil, and now would duplicate that throughout eternity until Yahweh stopped having life done by procreation, by copulation. The only one that came in differently was Yeshua. That's why we call it the seed of the woman. Now you got to pay attention to that because it gets deeper. Now pay close attention to the rest of this. So what do we have to do with the sin of Adam? That we are all born in original sin? That right there. And that's why when you read the book of when you read the Brit Hadessa, you read Paul's Romans, Paul's book of Romans, you read many other passages. That just comes to mind right now when it talks about by one man sin entered into the world. By one man sin now was conquered in the world. So by death, by one man came death over all humanity. By one man is now the potential for life for all humanity. So what does Adam's sin have to do with us being born with the original sin? Just that. Adam is our daddy. We are descendants from Adam. That one created through and with the process of Ishai, the womb of the woman, creates life. That's why the seed of the man is so important. We call it, in technical terms in Hebrew, we call it sirah. That seed is what you're reproducing. So every woman who has the sperm from a man, she's reproducing that sperm. Whoever gave that sperm. That's why Yahweh couldn't have a man to redeem the problem who would come from the man who made the problem. Take that one, hold on to it, don't ever leave it. All right. So I hope that helped a little bit as well. Now, you give me another timestamp. Ruach, you still there? Rukia, you still there? Let me know you're still there. I'm gonna do this next question. Somebody let me know he's there. If he's not there, if they don't respond. But okay, great. Thank you for letting me know, Service. Now look at your next one, Service. Here's your next question. You timestamped this at 3:11 as well. So you was putting them out fast as I can get them in. So you said one who sins is the one who will die. Exactly. Right? The child will not share the guilt of the parent, nor the parent share the guilt of the child. Okay, the righteousness of righteousness will be credited to them, that the wickedness of wicked will be charged against him. Now, you brought up Ezekiel 18:20. You got to understand Ezekiel is a prophet of Torah. He's not your typical church prophet spouting out scriptures, talking about he know this, he know that, or the other. He is giving you what Yahweh says. And yes, Elohim made it very clear. The sins, the grapes of the fathers will not offset the teeth of the children. He wouldn't do that any longer. He made a promise for that. However, the nature of sin has already entered into this world for humanity by Adam's sin. Now, here is the catch. If you were born in sin and shaped in iniquity, mind you, sin and wickedness are different. They are related, but different. A man who sins, a woman who sins, is doing what comes from their proclivities and propensities that have never been checked by their morality or their intellectuality. So therefore, they're sinning. In most cases, don't even know they're disobeying the will of their creator, because they didn't get a chance to see their creator in the image he intended, because Adam changed the fashion. So Adam had us all born into what we call iniquity. We were born in sin. We duplicated whatever daddy did in his disobedience, and now all the proclivities and his knowledge of good and knowledge of evil, his experimenting with them both. We are now products of that. Some of us are doing things we don't know are disobeying to the Father. That's sin. But once you know now by the instructions of the Creator that this is something I don't want you to do as a human, i.e. the Torah. Once he gave us the Torah, he says, these are the things I don't want you guys doing as humans, and this is what that looks like. Now, once you know that and say, okay, I read this, I get this, I see this, bet I won't do it. Once you start doing that on a regular and understanding it, wicked has entered the game. Sin was before you knew right from wrong. Once you got checked on what your sin was, really in most cases an unawareness of error, you got checked, you got convicted, you even said, I'm going to go with what it says to do right from this point forward. Now, the moment you said that, Mr. and Mrs. I'm so saved and Holy Ghost filled and fire baptized, the moment you go back to what you said you were not going to do when he delivered you from your sin, you become wicked. Y'all act like the wicked man is somebody out in the streets killing people, committing genocide, smoking weed, pushing cocaine and meth and everything else through their neighborhoods, trying to make money because the system has them out of the inner circle, and they got to survive and provide for their family in the way they know how. And all they know is, I saw how they made money, I'm gonna go make money. They may know or may not know it's illegal, but they start doing it. But once they get checked, once the law checks them, once Johnny Law puts his hand on him and say, hey, this is against the law. If you go back out there and do that, you are a repeat criminal. You are now considered wicked. So we want to make sure that when we're talking in Christendom about what wickedness and what sin are, that you understand sin usually is a person who doesn't even really know that they're doing it. They're doing it and they might not feel right, but they do it anyway. But until they get checked on it, it's now sin. Once they get checked on it and they say, I'm going to stop doing it, maybe 1 or 2 times they default, they go back to it. Then they, I'm going to really stop doing it. Now you're wicked. So wickedness is more inside the church than it is in the world. Wickedness is more with the people who say they love God than people who never knew God. I hope that helped as well. So now when you understand this, you find that these things are where they need to be. Now, I don't know if I have any more questions. I appreciate waiting. Okay, awesome. Services, thank you for your questions. I hope that they have been, you said you're here and you said interesting answers. Well, if you got any more questions, you can actually inbox me back channel rather than have me to do this on this platform, which is not where I really answer most of these questions. But today we had time, so I'm glad it worked out. And thank you for your questions. Your questions are not shot down. You are honored and respected for your viewpoint and for your questions. We want to make sure we take them to the writ to show us what the writ says about every question. There is no question the writ can't answer. Not one. Now, y'all don't come at me tomorrow with some Einstein question about mathematics, okay? Because I know we can handle it, but that's what we got. And that's what we got, and that's what we do with, okay? So we're going to let you guys go. Enjoy your family time. I know many of you are doing what you do. Y'all pray for me. My Cowboys lost last night. My Cowboys lost yesterday to the Dolphins. Day 5 beat day 6. Lord, help me today. Help me today. I got some brothers of mine who are very happy, though. I know one of my dear young men that I love to talk with and chat with. He's pretty happy today. So, SA, if you out there viewing, you know cheers to you. Happy to you. But they're also my second team. All right. So, guys, I'm going to let you guys do what you got to do. I hope that this has been edifying to you. Remember that we are always to filter everything we think through the word that we might know how to please the Father. Why? Because faith comes by hearing, and hearing comes by the word of Elohim. That's the Torah. And then you got to make sure you understand, without faith, without the word of Elohim, it is impossible to please Elohim. This is something we must consistently ponder, embrace, and look to change for the betterment of our lives. My name is Apostle V.W. Jones. We got a couple of announcements for you. I'm going to let you guys go shortly. We'll be back here again on this coming Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll also be back here on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Darash Kingdom Ministries for Bible study for Darash Kingdom Ministries. And you can ask questions also. Wednesdays are days we want you to ask questions. Wednesday nights, Bible studies on Wednesday night. And on our Sabbath keep, Fridays at sundown till Saturday at sundown, whenever we are released to come on during those 24 hours of time in that day. And so, we look forward to you asking questions. Every question has to have an answer in order for us to learn together. So don't hold back your questions, people. This is not the kind of ministry that doesn't answer those questions. This is not the type of ministry that shies from them questions. This is not the type of ministry that because they didn't study it will tell you, oh, you're being disobedient. No, just ask your questions respectfully. Ask your questions without a preconceived idea that you're trying to prove. Ask your questions because you want to understand, what does the writ say about this in proper context to my content, which is my question. And from there, we will study together through the writ. And if you got thought about it, as long as you're not antagonizing and nobody's judging the other, we're just saying, hey, this is what the writ says. Here is what it looks like. We can always have that opportunity to learn together. Now we help each other, and this is what we do in faith. All right, everybody, it's been a joy talking with you. I am an Apostle V.W. Jones Sr. What we want to do is pray you out of this particular program, and then we're going to leave you one announcement. In the end, we hope that you will pay attention to it before we release you to having a wonderful day. You can go back and watch this again on your replays right here in fact, the proceeding word. So share it with your friends, put it on your page if you want to, do what you want to do with it, but make sure you listen to it, because I believe it'll bless your soul. Remember, man's religious fashioning will always cover over the designer original's intentions and purpose. Don't let your religious garb cause people not to see the actual body Elohim intended to bring all of us back into proper relationship with him. Just be careful of being caught up in your religiosity and your preferred doctrine and all of the churchiosity that goes with that. We're not shooting it down. We just want you to be aware of what you are putting on and what you are causing other people to see as a reason to put you off, and you can put them off. Let's try to do our best to live in the fashion of his robe of righteousness, which he made immaculately for us. Father, we thank you for your word, will, purpose, and plan. We ask today that you be with us for your name's sake and for your praise. We can't live without you. Your words are true. Your words are real. Your words are hope. Your words are strength. And we're asking you today that you would know that we know your words are life. So because we are hiding your word in our heart, we pray that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, Yahweh. You are our strength and you are our Redeemer. To you now be glory, be honor, dominion, might, and power. And we only give your name praise in this season. We only associate you to those things your word says to do. And we do not celebrate the things you told us not to do. Be not like the heathens. So Yahweh, we hope that we can find in your word and filter what we want to do through your word to honor you. In the precious, in the matchless, in the mighty and the most dynamic name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we all pray and we all say, Amen.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.
Truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.